Okay, welcome to episode 144 of an Evolving Man podcast. Today I'm excited to be speaking to Sarah Jane Perrett. Sarah Perrett is an intuitive happiness coach, certified emotion code and body code practitioner, and positive psychology mentor who helps people release emotional baggage and rediscover peace. After years of postnatal illness, anxiety, and depression, Sarah embarked on a powerful healing journey that led to a profound spiritual awakening in 2013. Drawing on her experiences of transformation, energy healing, and emotional resilience, she now supports others in moving from survival to self-empowerment. Through her work, Sarah helps clients reconnect to their intuition, embrace their emotions, and clear any emotional and energetic imbalances. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Piers. It's lovely to be here with you and have this chat.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you as well for, offering a session to me about 3, 4 weeks ago, and I found that very powerful. So thank you for your kindness and generosity with that.
That was my pleasure. We need to spread the word on these things, and I would do it all my whole life for free if I could. You may have noticed I evangelize a bit about these methods. So it's lovely
Yeah.
that you could experience that and then have that knowledge before we have our chat to know what I'm
Mm.
actually talking about with you.
Yeah, it's very powerful. I find with emotions, as I was sharing before, I can feel quite a bit of emotion today myself, and I just see that. Previously in my life, I was very dissociated, so I couldn't feel. So
Mm.
see that the importance of connecting to our emotions, feeling, and just keeping that heart open to, okay, whatever is arising. So I'd love for us to begin with you sharing a bit about your journey. How, Sarah, did you get into doing the work you're now doing with emotion code, body code?
Okay. It's a long story, as with many, anyone that ends up working in this zone, we all have our long stories. So I'll encapsulate it with the highlights as much as I can. So grew up in with some very difficult things going on when I was a child. My father, he embezzled money from a company he was working at, and that caused so much upheaval. We had a big court case going on, went on a year. I was 10. Um, there was money worries, there was worries about my parents, so they're going to stay together, split up. People would tell me some things were going on and other things I wasn't allowed to speak about at school. So looking back now, I brushed it off for years, but I look back, I'm like, gosh, there was a lot of difficulties there for me as a youngster. When things are supposed to be calm around you, my parents were in chaos, my life was in chaos. I was being shipped from friend to friend and family, lots going on. Um, and my reaction to that as I grew was rebellion, self-medication with ridiculous things, drinking too much, being a bit of a wild child, and then followed depression. Um, and it kind of culminated in me in my 20s just being so way out of control and just thinking, oh my goodness, I really need to get a handle on this. And then I met my husband, we married, I became a mum of my two lovely boys, and obviously just took that so seriously that I need to change, I need to be an adult here. And yeah, stepped into the mum role beautifully. However, I did have those 8 years of, well, it was postnatal illness. At one point, the doctor wanted to section me. But myself, my second child was 3 months old. He wanted us to go into a mother and baby psychiatric unit. But I was so, like, I saw myself as having to keep everything together. I didn't feel I could let go of things at home. My other son was about 4. My husband at the time, things weren't going too well between us. I felt like I was the glue, which is a common theme for me. I felt like I couldn't let go like that and prioritize myself. And although everyone was trying to convince me, you need to go, you need to go, I was like, no, I've got this, I'll sort myself out. It didn't go well for a while, but what happened was I did end up learning techniques and things, getting to know what did work with me, alongside getting some medical treatment and support. Um, and I came out of that, and a lot of that was down to me. And then when my marriage kind of broke up, again, I went into a very dark space. I got me out of that with different things. And then I had another relationship post marriage, which was with a person who, the word narcissist is bandied around a lot these days, but that was a troubled person. I was a troubled person. We were like boom, that all blew up, and I went into a very dark space. So I'm a single mum of two young boys, and honestly, Piers, if I didn't have my boys, I wouldn't be here. I would have checked out. I would have gone. But I knew, like, I have to get through this for my boys. And I went on this absolute self-healing mission, really, reading self-help books. I just thought, when everything goes wrong, I'm always there. So I'm the common denominator. So I just had this faith that if I sort out me, then things will ripple out and change. I began to learn about law of attraction and how thoughts, I believe, are things, and they bring in certain situations to your life. I began to change my thoughts. I realized I've been in victim mentality a long time. So I began to switch into using brain training to become more optimistic and seek out the good. And meditating and really going on this deep dive inside of myself, facing my shadow, facing the traumas inside of me. And I had this massive spiritual awakening at my desk one day. I was working as a designer, working on a Hewlett Packard brochure at the time. And I've been watching lots of Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, and just lots of like Wayne Dwyer, Eckhart Tolle, Byron Katie, lots of interesting people with different thoughts about things. Um, and I don't know what happened to this day, but it was like the top of my head opened, and all this, people call them downloads now, all these downloads came into me. And it was like I became one with whatever created all of this for a little while. And I could just see all the chaos going on in the world, in me, in people. It was like I was everything and nothing all at the same time. And I just came out of it 20 minutes later with all this sort of inner knowledge and insight. It was like a different person. And then I went into dark night of the soul because I couldn't connect with myself, my life, or anybody. Because suddenly I'd seen beyond the job, the work, the argument, the trivial things every day. It had no meaning for me. So where do you go with that? When you've lost all of that humanness, I didn't know how to be this new version of me. And it was quite messy for a while. The Dark Night of the Soul was pretty awful, which that's where you have this sort of dissolving away of your ego. And it's like I was like an Alka-Seltzer dropped into a glass of water, and I just dissolved into like nothing really. Um, but that was part of the journey. And yeah, just started to build on there. And from that point, I just had this insight that someone would come and sit in my studio at the time and tell me their biggest problem. And the same thing would happen. This download of information would come through me, and I'd be inside me going, that's really great. How have you got that knowledge? Where's that come from? It's like it wasn't part of me. Um, and I think it's part of this, people that write songs. I write songs sometimes, and often artists will say, I didn't write the song. It's like it was ready made and it came through. It's this lovely connection. Um, and then people will come back and say, that was great advice. I've changed my life. It worked. And in lockdown, I had a health journey, and I felt like this was the universe saying to me, come on, Sarah, you're feeling drawn towards supporting others in well-being. I had this bigger mission that I felt, and I felt like I hadn't picked up on it. I wasn't doing it. And the health issue, it just was like, yeah, okay, I get it. I need to move now. I need to do stuff. So I began coaching people just from my own journey. I did train as a live well, work well practitioner in the positive psychology in lockdown to have some training. But I started using my own methods as this 6 week sort of reset your mindset method that I was using at the time, and getting amazing results. And some of my clients had health issues, and their health issues would start to improve as well as their emotional state. So I was getting really brilliant results. But it took time. The brain training took time. And I'm a great believer in when I need something, I put it out. Law of attraction or whatever you want to call it, I just put it out and things find me. And the Emotion Code book found me. And I know you've had a gorgeous chat with Dr. Bradley Nelson, who wrote that book. You've had him on
Mm.
as well. And that book was life-changing for me. I was having some health issues going on in lockdown. I used the book. I cleared some trapped emotions with the method. It felt much better. And I thought, goodness me, I need to become a practitioner. So I did. And then a couple of years later, I trained. So emotion code is level one. And then I trained in level two, which is the body code. So that's sort of like the encapsulated epic Lord of the Rings style version of
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Sounds like you've been on quite a journey from, challenging childhood to then breakdown and, struggling with postnatal depression and then, yeah, moving through it yourself and then, yeah, having that spiritual awakening kind of reminds me a bit of Eckhart Tolle. He talks about that in his book about his awakening. And, I had a similar experience when I was living in a Buddhist monastery. It got really difficult at one point, and I just thought I couldn't go forward, I couldn't go back, and I couldn't stand still. And suddenly, in that moment, there was a teaching from Ajahn Chah about that. That when you're really stuck and you can't go forward, you can't go back, and you can't stand still, that's where you practice. And just for a moment, maybe 5, 10 minutes, I just felt that peace and that
Yeah.
awakening, and it was like, oh my God, amazing. And then it's question. I was lucky. I was in a Buddhist monastery, so there was context and support around me. But it sounds like you didn't necessarily have that, so it was more difficult. That there was that dark night of the soul. And it's
Yeah.
often that I find with spiritual awakening is like, how do we then integrate it? And we don't really have the elders, certainly in the
Mm.
West, in India more so, or in Asia. You can go and speak to the Buddhist monk or the sadhu, and you can ask questions, but not so much here. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, what a powerful journey.
It really was. And I'm so interested in you saying that experience that you had as well, because that that is exactly what I felt in that dark night of the soul. I literally was, when I was describing it to clients later on when they were going through similar, I would literally show them, I would put one foot forward and one foot back, and it just wedges you in the middle. And you can't go back. Like I couldn't go back because I didn't know how to be that person anymore. I wasn't her. She'd gone in 20 minutes, literally. But I couldn't move forward because I didn't know how to be that person because I hadn't been her yet. And it was like in, I don't know if you watched the film Life of Pi, where the boy's in the boat with the tiger and he throws a bottle out. So they're stranded and they go into somewhere like the doldrums, the sea, where it's like a mill pond and the boat won't move. It's just absolutely still. He throws a bottle out with a letter in it and it comes to the fore of the camera and they're just sitting and it's just completely still. That's how it felt for me. And because I'd never been used to that stillness, I'd never been going inside myself, meditating. It was too terrifying. It was so new that it felt terrifying to me. But actually now I seek out that beautiful, calm, still moment. I seek out the boat on the in the doldrums on the sea. But back then I didn't understand it. Like you say, I didn't have any elders. Well, I did have elders. I had my elderly parents, but they were kind of so messed up in themselves that I sort of had to parent them emotionally. I'd moved beyond and evolved, beyond that in my own journey. So I didn't have anyone. I had to seek my own teachers, as you say, with the books and things. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, powerful. Yeah, interesting. So I'd love for you just to move on to this relationship between the heart and the brain. And I think partly I see that we overemphasize in the West the brain. And I
Yes.
see that it comes from dissociation. I've said this often in my podcasts. this idea of resilience. We're teaching in companies resilience, and yet what I feel we're teaching is dissociation. Come on,
Mm.
push on, stuff your emotion down. It's like, no, that's not resilience. Resilience is doing it together. It's like it's a team. It's like about having time to rest. Whereas,
Yeah.
and so I'd love for you to talk a bit about, that relationship between the heart and the brain, please, Sarah.
Yes. And I'm so glad you've mentioned that about so often in work scenarios where it's no, push the emotions away, they're not there, or what I call toxic positivity, which is where everything's crashing inside of you and you're like, no, I'm fine. I've got gratitude. I'm going to appreciate this, that, and the other. It just there's a time to practice that type of thing and to try and find a better feeling emotion, and there's a time to really honor what you are actually feeling. And I feel that we're coming into a space where we're learning that more. I believe that we are in a time where our hearts are all opening and we are rebuilding that heart brain connection. And it's a very important one for us to remember because I think that the ancients knew about it, but somewhere along the way it has got forgotten. Um, we've learnt to operate more from our, like you say, our logical brain, from our ego, which kind of steps in to try and protect us and not feel the emotions or feel negative emotions to protect and defend. And it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. But the good news is that we're learning that and we're seeing that, and more people are talking about this heart-brain coherence. So it's been discovered in the last 40 years. A lot of research has been done, particularly by a place called the Heart Math Institute. And what they've discovered is that there is a link between your brain and your heart. And we all believe that our brain is like the main computer that's running everything. But actually, what's been discovered is no, the heart is running more than your brain. The heart sends more messages to the brain than the other way around. I'm sure I read somewhere it's like 80% of information is going from your heart to your brain.
Mhm.
Your heart has brain cells in it called neurites. This was discovered in the 80s, where they found that, you have got these sort of neurites working. You can actually hold memories in your heart, has been discovered. And what's so interesting, and what Dr. Brad has talked about as well, is that heart transplants have been done on people in the past, and they've started to take on the personality and the memories and the feelings of the donor. There was one story where I think it was an older lady. She got the heart of I think it turned out it was a younger guy, and she had a heart transplant, and she found that when she recovered and left hospital, she just got these impulses to go and buy a bucket of KFC chicken, and she like never touched fast food in her life. And I don't know if she reconnected with the family or she spoke with them or whatever, but it just turned out that was like his favorite food. You get people that can suddenly play beautiful violin, and the person that the donor has been a concert violinist. There's so many stories. There's some interesting documentaries you can find on that. So our heart and our brain together need to be working as a team.
Mhm.
And communication goes between them via the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is being talked about a lot now to do with calming your nervous system. Um, uh, which is very important now as well. That's another important zone. So getting them working together, getting this coherence, and coherence is when your heart and your brain are working together as the team, and that has a very stabilizing effect on your nervous system. So there's sort of two parts to your nervous system. There's rest and digest, fight, flight, freeze, fawn,
Mhm.
and you slip in and out of those zones. The coherence makes them balance together, and it's reflected if you're hooked up to an electrocardiogram where they do the your heartbeat. They do what's called HRV, it's heart rate variability. So your heartbeat is how many beats you have in a period of time. Heart rate variability is the gaps between the beats and how those beats are. Is it causing like a really jaggedy line? When you go into coherence, it's a very beautiful, like a sine wave like pattern. And that's when you go into a state where your nervous system is beautifully balanced. It's a bit like a relaxed state, but not. It's where you can process emotions really well, you have good cognition, your attention increases, your perception, your memory, and your problem solving, as well as being very sort of calm and not reacting so much to stress. So our heart is huge, huge, and we're just all learning that in the last sort of 40 years or so. And I think it's starting to come into awareness, people's awareness now, really.
Thank you. Yeah, I have read a few of the studies of the Heart Math Institute, and I teach at the beginning of my client sessions. I always arrive with the quick coherence method. I've modified it slightly,
Mm.
and I find that such a powerful way just for us to drop from our heads
Mm.
down into our hearts.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the beautiful things I've come across in the last few months, especially Daniel Goleman's work. Him saying with emotional intelligence, his IQ is more or less fixed.
Mm.
Once you get to a certain age, it's fixed, whereas EQ can be developed. And I,
Absolutely.
and I think sometimes for us as ex-boarders or people who've had childhood trauma, we often feel that's it. I
Mm.
can't develop myself emotionally. I can't develop myself with my heart. But
Mm.
actually, what Daniel Goleman's saying is, no, you can.
Yeah.
And there's very specific tools and techniques. So I'd love for you to share some of the tools that you found really useful for if someone's really stuck in their heads and they can't feel their heart.
Mm.
What are some of the things you found useful with your clients through your work?
It's very dependent on the person where they are, obviously. You've got to meet yourself where you are. So if you're like completely disassociated and you have subconsciously learned that emotions are danger, feeling those emotions are dangerous, then you're kind of going to shut yourself off to them because your subconscious mind, which is your supercomputer, it's running pretty much all of you. It's going to put that safety block in place. So, so I would say anyone in that zone that is very disassociated, very cut off, needs to work with a therapist or someone who's specialist in that area, number one. And then number two, there are things you can do running alongside that. There are things I do with my clients, as you've said, so definitely you can do meditations, as you were saying, you do something at the beginning of your sessions that gets you to drop into that space. Um, you can go to the Heart Math Institute. They have meditations on there to help with this process, and you can learn more about this. There's a lot of information on there, a lot of resources. I have a heart brain coherence, a 5 minute meditation on YouTube that you can go to, and just 5 minutes in the morning to drop you into that heart space. So it's all about imagining that you're breathing through your heart and you're focusing in on someone or something that you love that brings up those good feeling emotions, and you're kind of breathing that in, opening your heart up. That might be a scary space for some people. If it's too scary to go there, I would say beginning to become aware that you will be having emotions in your body, but you have broken this connection with them. That's the first step. Have setting an intention. Intention is so powerful in life and in energy work, particularly. If you set the intention, I want to feel more of my emotions, you're giving your subconscious mind a directive and it will set to work. It's a computer, you're programming it. It will find a way to start connecting you in with them. You can also clear what's called the heart wall. So with the emotion code method that I've learnt, we often see what's called a heart wall. And this is a literal energetic barrier placed around the heart by your brain, by your subconscious mind to protect your heart when you're going through difficult times. And that's great. So you know you have a heart wall when you do feel numb, emotionally numb, disconnected. You might feel like intellectually you know you love your loved ones, but you can't actually feel it in your heart. You can't feel it in your body. Um, it can cause all sorts of problems as well. Obviously, connecting with relationships, but connecting with life. Sometimes you'll feel like you're on Mars, looking back at Earth. Everyone's living their life. I felt that way when my mum passed very suddenly, and it was a shock. And I was so glad I had a heart wall in place because it buffers you. But once that difficult time's over, you're left with a big energetic barrier around your heart. And so, what we do as practitioners is clear that heart wall away, get that bomb shelter away, so that your heart is back in the open, feeling joy, feeling what it needs to feel. That can make a big difference. Um, you can also, if you feel comfortable, you can do a little exercise of integration. So if emotions are starting to come up, getting to know what they are first. Get to know, is it anger I'm feeling? Is it anxiety? Is it frustration? Is it sadness? Is it grief? There's kind of some biggies. Start to fill into them. You can find lists of emotions online, look at them and look through the list. And your body, if you ask your body to tell you, what am I feeling right now? It will probably jump off the page at you and you'll be like, oh, is it that? No. Is it that? No. Oh, yes, I think it's over here in this zone. You can start with, is it a comfortable feeling emotion or an uncomfortable feeling emotion? So joy, happiness, love, comfortable. Anger, frustration, irritation, defensiveness, grief, uncomfortable. Start there. And then find it in your body. Is it in my stomach? Is it in my throat, my chest, my head? Find the feeling, take a few breaths, close your eyes, and just say, hi, what are you? What am I feeling here? Talk to it. You can talk to your emotions. It sounds crazy, but try it.
Mm, thank you. Sounds very similar to the emotion feeling wheel.
Right.
The you kind of they've got the six primary emotions in the center, and then the wheels go out. If you look that up on
Ah,
YouTube, it's like I found that I first learned it from Richard Grannon in his book Cult of One about narcissism, who is also an ex-boarder, and I interviewed him on the podcast.
right.
In reading his book, he was like, you have this emotion feeling wheel,
Mm,
and so you've got, say, joy, you've got sadness, you've got, say, grief, you've got anger, and then you've got all of the different emotions, and you can then label. Because I often find, there's quite a few things which resonate. You mentioned about the heart wall. I felt that in my 20s, that I
yeah,
had an exoskeleton
yeah,
around me. And I
yeah.
think that's what childhood trauma, especially boarding school, where no emotions are allowed, you
Mm,
build this wall around you. Joy Chavrian, who wrote the book Boarding School Syndrome, calls it a carapace.
right.
It's this idea of this wall.
Yeah,
And I found I couldn't feel love for people. And
yeah.
there was an exercise I did when I was about 25, 26, and this is when I realized I had a problem. When I thought, who do I love? It was asked, name the people you love, and I couldn't name anybody apart from
Mm,
my dog when I was a child before I went to boarding school. And
yeah.
it was like, oh, I think I have a problem here. And so, what I've often said to clients when they try and think about someone they love, it's really difficult because we've learned not to trust. And I found actually finding a beautiful place or a pet, but when
Mhm.
we're young, that often helps to soften that heart. So I can really resonate with so many of the things you've shared. So yeah.
I get what you say, and I haven't heard of that book, and I would love to look that up actually and look more into that wheel of emotion as well. Before I knew all of this stuff, when I was very ill with the boys and married and miserable, I felt as though I had a circuit board. I was a big circuit board with lots of switches and lights, and it was like all the switches had been turned off and there were no lights whatsoever. Um, so yeah, it's kind of same sort of thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like that's our way of surviving. We like just, I think, how it came online for me as a child was whenever I showed emotion at the beginning, I would be bullied or others would be bullied.
Yeah.
And so I learned to beat myself up. And Pete Walker, in his book Complex PTSD, this
Mm.
idea, he says, the inner critic. So we
Yeah.
just beat ourselves up. And I think that helps to install that dissociation and that wall there. And it sounds like through your work with the emotion code that you can start letting that heart wall down.
You can clear it. Yes, you can. It can take a time, and it's interesting because I'll always muscle test and ask the subconscious mind, what's the heart wall made of? And so symbolically, your subconscious sees it as a certain size and made of a certain material sometimes. And it's really interesting how, not always, but sometimes the material the heart wall is made of symbolically is very meaningful to the person. So I worked with one person and their heart wall tested as made of steel. And they instantly said, "Oh, Batfink." And I don't know, you might be too young to remember
No, I
Batfink, but
remember that thing.
do
Yeah.
you? So he was like a cartoon bat. He was a detective and he would chase criminals. And when they fired bullets at him, he brought out his wings of steel, came around to protect him. And so this person literally had put the Batfink wings of steel around the heart, and that's how the subconscious was representing it. And often I test in feet, how many feet thick. So my heart wall was 500 and something feet thick. It was like the biggest one I've ever seen. But if it's someone younger that hasn't been through so much, it could be that they've got 10 or 20 what are called trapped emotions, because that's what the heart wall's made of. Trapped emotions or emotions that you haven't processed, you've put in your body somewhere, and they get pulled up like bricks to build this wall. So we clear each individual trapped emotion away. We take the bricks out of the wall and until it's gone completely. So it's an interesting area to work in, and it's pretty easy to do once you know the method of how to do it.
Thank you. Sounds amazing.
If
Yeah,
anyone's interested, actually, if they get Dr. Brad's book, the Emotion Code book, he's got the whole method in this book, how to clear trapped emotions and how to clear your own heart wall if you want to do it yourself or if you want to read a bit more. And I put resources out on it as well. So you can start to do a little bit of research if it resonates for you.
thank you. Yeah, I think I mentioned to you when we spoke a few weeks ago that I'm in Glastonbury at the moment visiting friends, and I was walking through the centre of town and I was like, I'll just go into the bookshop. I love books anyhow. But go into the bookshop and the first book I saw was The Emotion Code.
Yeah.
And
It
I'm
would
like,
be in Glastonbury, of course, wouldn't
yeah, yeah. And
it?
I was like, oh wow, amazing. And I think I've done that a few times. I think there was another shop I went in, I found another book by a lady called Dr. Karen Traceman, who I've interviewed on my podcast, talking
Yeah,
about trauma and children. And I'm like, oh, these different books kind
yeah.
of coming off the shelves. So,
That's your RAS working in your brain. It's either that or it depends how you choose to look at it. Law of attraction, what you
mm,
focus your thoughts and your energy on grows, or your reticular activating system in your brain. Once you're connected with something, like you've interviewed those people, your brain is going to look for evidence linked in with what you know and what you're focusing your mind on.
yeah, 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 yeah. And I love what you said, 20 minutes ago, just about going from a victim mindset into more of a positive mindset. And that for me links in with the RAS, the reticular activating system, because it's like if we've been stuck in victim, and I know I was, and I used to ask myself really not necessarily stupid questions, but I used to say, why me? Why is life so hard? And
Yeah.
I would always find a solution like the RAS looking, oh, it's hard because it's this or this. And when I started to change the questions to how can I have a joyful life, it's like, oh, different answers. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you changed from that victim mindset into more of a positive and more optimistic mindset.
Absolutely. So I began learning about NATs, which are negative automated thoughts,
Yeah, Daniel
which
Amen.
I didn't find out who had talked about it, but it's in part of my positive psychology learnings. Um, But yeah, so you're exactly right. Your brain, your neural pathways all get trained into negative, finding the negative, the reticular activating system, as you said, the RAS, or some people call it the RAS. It's like a librarian in your head. You give it a directive. So remembering your subconscious mind is a supercomputer. So if you're always saying, why me? Or bad things always happen to me, why is there always a terrible thing happening? Or if you expect bad things, then your good little librarian in your brain is like, oh, right, okay, I'll go and find you some evidence. And it trots off into your library and it pulls in, yeah, because this happened 3 years ago and then that happened. And then that person yesterday in the shop was awful. And then this and that. It brings all the evidence to you to show you and prove to you, yes, you're right, that's true, that's what's going on. And I learned about that. And I learned about neuroplasticity, it was in a book by a guy, and I can't remember his name now, but it was called like neuroplasticity or something like that. Shad, might have been Shad Helmstetter, or I might be making that up, but it was about how scientists and doctors used to think that our brain was set. It once you got to a certain age, the all the pathways in it were set that you would think a certain way. And then again, back in sort of the 80s, I think it was, they discovered that no, we can change our brain and we can do it intentionally. So I learnt this. And the way it was represented in what I learned was that if you imagine you've got sort of streams running through, you've got grooves in your brain, like
Mm,
rivers, excuse me. And sorry, every time you think the same thought, it makes the river groove bigger. And so the more you keep thinking the same thought, the bigger it gets, it keeps it in ground. And this is what I did, I began to identify the thoughts I was having that were victim. Oh, it's terrible. It always happens to me. Nothing is ever going to work out. I hate myself. I'm not worthy. All those types of really destructive thoughts. What I did, I put a hairband on my wrist, and you don't please don't put a tight hairband on your wrist, but I just put this thing on my wrist, and I identified what thoughts I want to change, and it was I'm not enough. I started with like a big one there, not enough, and all those thoughts. Every time I thought that thought, I'm not enough, I pinged the hairband. So a little bit of aversion therapy, and also to make me aware and make me notice I'm thinking that thought I want to change. And I would stop and I would say, okay, I'm not thinking this thought anymore. I'm going to choose to believe I am enough. I'm a good
mm,
person. And I began to bombard myself consciously with goodness. And it was really hard work, Piers. Okay. It took a lot of commitment. But I really wanted to change. I felt so hopeless around it. And I thought, I really believe this is going to work. And I read that it takes 21 to 30 days to change your whole neuroplasticity. And what I was doing as I was doing like the ping and the think the new thought, as I was stopping that thought in its pathway, the old one, I'm not enough, that old kind of riverbed was smoothing over, and I was sending it down a new pathway. I was firing new circuits in my brain to make a new, more positive river. And when I hit 21 days, it got much easier and it got more automated. And by the time I'd reached 30 days, my brain was looking for good things. I became so much more optimistic, and it just became natural. And I actually annoy my partner now. I call him Alpha Male Andy because I can be a little bit Pollyanna sometimes, a bit like always finding the positive. I'll always look for the reframe. I call it flipping the script. This is the negative kind of victimized story. Can I flip it round? Can I become the victor? How can I tell this story in a still truthful way, but in a more empowered way, so that I'm not feeling so kind of victimized by it? So I
mm,
did that. It was really annoying. It was really hard work for a time. It did take work, but it did work.
thank you. It's really useful to hear the story because sometimes we do think to change, like our internal dialogue can take years. And actually, if we commit to it 21, 30 days, I've had a few clients who use a similar method, and yeah, they find it very powerful just to catch ourselves. And I think I don't Shad Helmstetter, I think he wrote the book How We Talk to Ourselves or something like that.
Yeah, I think,
And he
yeah,
and he talks about those five levels of, kind of the inner dialogue and how we can turn that around. So,
yeah.
mm,
Do you know what? It sounds overwhelming with this story of what I did, and it could have been at some points, but actually there was an ease in it. And you know how to make this easy for yourself is to make the decision. And
mm,
that can happen in a second. You can go, I was like, everything was awful. It's always going to be terrible. Um, I'll give you an example here. I used to catch every illness. I used to catch everything from everyone. If I was around any sick people, I'd be backing away. Don't come near me, I'll catch it. And I would always get the worst version. So a friend might have, a little dose of influenza and be unwell for a few days and then go back to work. I would get like terrible flu, be in bed for 2 weeks. It would turn into pleurisy, then it would turn into pneumonia. I was like, my body would just blow it all up. And I heard myself one day say to someone, don't come near me, I catch everything. And it was just at this time I was going through where I was learning about the power of the mind, the power of your words. Words are spells. You
mm,
cast a spell on yourself. I'm like, oh, and so I flipped it round. I made the decision. I'm turning this round. I started to say to people, I'm so lucky I never catch anything. If they say to me, oh, I've got a cold, don't come near. No, I'm okay. I'm so lucky I never catch anything. And it became true really quickly. And I had young kids that were bringing this, that, and the other home all the time. I would always catch it. As soon as I made the decision to tell a new story, change the script, and I faked it till I made it. I faked it at first and it became true. I made new neural pathways, my body program, my computer program readjusted itself to what I was programming it with. It became true. I can be around the sickest person now and I don't catch anything. But I
mm,
made it was the decision. It's do I want this? Do I want this? I don't want this anymore. So I'm making the decision, whatever it takes, I'm doing this.
mm. It's interesting. Thank you. A couple of things. One is, I think the word decide comes from desir, and it means desir to cut off. So when you
Right.
decide, it's like you're cutting off the old. It's like you decide to take
Yeah.
like a pathway. And then interestingly, I was on holiday last week. I went to visit a friend, and I went with another friend, and he was sick. And again, it's like I didn't catch anything. But again, it's that internal dialogue of, yeah, man, I've got a really strong immune system. And Wim Hof talks a lot about that in his work of the three: cold exposure, breath, but also the mind of, and they've done so many scientific studies of the power of how he's been able to heal, and he's taught other people to heal
Absolutely.
against different things. And I think sometimes we can dismiss that, but now there's so much clinical research just to show the power of the mind and that. So,
Absolutely.
so I'd love for us to talk a little bit about emotions, and I know we've talked quite a bit about it, but just how they in, kind of link into life, relationships, and work. Because sometimes I see it, certainly in Britain at the moment, it's IQ, it's all that emotions are seen as kind of weak and kind of a bit pathetic. I know there's so much clinical data to say that the emotions are so much more important than IQ. But I'd love for you to share your experiences of how important emotions are.
Yeah, 1,000,000% in my experience, in the experience of the people that I work with. If you can master your emotions, you master yourself, you master your life experience, you master your relationships, and it will roll out of you like a beautiful ripple and affect everyone around you. Um, so I was terrified my emotions. Terrified. They were overwhelming to me. I'm sure I'm on a spectrum somewhere. I've not ever officially looked into it, but I'm a very sensitive person. And the intuition thing and the energy thing and the empath thing, all of those things I feel deeply. And for the first sort of part of my life, that absolutely nailed me all the time. I just couldn't function properly. And like I said, I did everything I could to numb myself from what I was feeling. And I reached a point where I felt like a goose like a pate goose, where it's force fed all this stuff. It was like all these emotions I was pressing in, pressing in, pressing in. I felt like they were up to here by the time all those things kind of happened and I started to take hold of it. And I did not want to go in there. It was terrifying. Terrifying. It would have been like going into the center of the earth with no light. But honestly, when I realized that this was the only place to go, because I tried fixing it all out here and it didn't work, when I began to make friends with my emotions and my feelings, what I was feeling, it's been the most empowering journey ever, because emotions are just energy in motion. It's emotion. And our emotions, so as practitioners of emotion code, we work on the idea that actually our organs and our glands in our bodies, they produce our emotions. So if you think about the liver, if you drink too much alcohol consistently, we've all known people that have drunk too much and then they become an angry drunk. So the liver produces anger. If you're overstimulating it with something, it's going to make more anger. And so these emotions, they're innate to us. They're part of our human condition. So fighting against them, not acknowledging them, an emotion is also information. It wants to give you a message. It's giving you its feedback in the system of the computer. It's intel, basically. So let's say, for instance, if a feeling of anger comes up in you, it could be you've had too many glasses of wine, you've overstimulated your liver. It could also be that a person is feeling deep vulnerability, deep vulnerability, and the subconscious mind wants to protect us. Our ego comes in, it wants to protect us from being vulnerable. It thinks there's a tiger next to us that wants to come and eat us. And so, what comes up, sometimes you have a secondary emotion, anger comes up to cover the vulnerability, anger, defensiveness, where we have a reaction and we fight. The fight, flight, sort of freeze thing. We fight, but the anger is covering vulnerability. I made a journey into my own vulnerability. I got through all that anger, defensiveness. I was a feisty girl. Uh, when I realized I'm feeling vulnerable right now, and I could connect in with that vulnerability, and I became okay with it. So, Brent, do you know Brené Brown? The
Yeah,
Power
yeah,
of Yeah. So I read that book, I watched her TED talk, I so connected with it. I started to practice that. How am I feeling right now? I am feeling vulnerable. So I'm getting a bit irritable with people around me. So the most vulnerable feeling people in the world are the ones that cause the most trouble, because they will cover it with anger, defensiveness, and then that has an effect on everyone around them. It ripples out. When you make friends with your emotions, you empower yourself. I am happy to make myself transparent to you. I'm happy to say I'm feeling really vulnerable right now, or I'm feeling a bit nervous, or whatever it is I'm feeling, I'm good with, because I know I'm in charge of that. If I feel vulnerable, then I know, okay, what's making me feel vulnerable? And what can I do to help myself, to support myself feeling less vulnerable? Do I need to have a difficult conversation with someone? Do I need to change the way that I'm working? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to have a sleep? It's just vulnerability, it's just information. And a great way of making friends with your emotions, when I said earlier, you close your eyes, take some breaths, find the emotion, work out what it is, what you're feeling, and say to it, "Hello, anger. Thanks for being there. I honor you. What do you have a message for me?" And then just sit quietly, like you're meditating, or just sit quiet and feel that feeling. When you feel the feeling, it's done its job. it's delivered its message. You may find a memory comes up, you may see a traumatic memory, you may you may hear something like it's telling you something. You need to be more careful of this. You don't go near that person, or whatever it is. Or it may be a child's voice. It may be your inner child's voice. Very often it is. And if it's your inner child coming up, that child's coming up, it wants to finish the loop that didn't get finished in childhood. My
Mm,
inner child came up recently, and I said, okay, what's wrong? I'm angry. Why are you angry? Because he hurt me. I think I'd had an argument with Alpha Male Andy or something. Okay, yeah, Andy did hurt us, yes. No, Daddy hurt me. And so my inner child linked the argument with my partner back to childhood, and all this stuff sort of came up. And I parented that child. I had the parental nurturing discussion with my inner child that I needed at that point in my childhood. And at the end of that, and it's all in my, it's all you do it in your mind and your feelings. I said, is there anything else you need? And my inner child said no. And I said, great, thank you so much. I'm happy to let you go. And the feeling went instantly. So emotions are so important because they want to deliver the message. And if they don't get to deliver the message, they can sit with you your whole life and keep trying. And if you're feeling that emotion and then pressing it away, like, no, I can't feel you, you're too uncomfortable, it will just keep coming back. It's like a little toddler, like, mom, it just gets louder and louder and then throws an absolute hissy fit on you.
mm. Thank you. Thank you. I think that I often see that in the work within myself and in the work I do is I often see it's like a trigger in the present moments, like the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
And then it feels, wow, why does this feel so, I feel so angry or so much energy? And it's because it's happened maybe dozens of times, or it was a really painful memory. And there was one time in particular that I think I've told this on the podcast before, I was carrying some ashes from my fire, the coal fire, down the passageway and taking them outside. One of the embers fell off and it fell on the floor. And I just bought a new carpet. And by the time I came back, it had burnt a hole in the carpet. And I was really angry. And I did a practice from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk. And I just walked back and forth, just saying, breathing in, anger has arisen in me, breathing out. Within a couple of minutes, I burst into tears. And I remembered a memory when I was very young, 3 or 4. I'd burnt a hole in the carpet and had been beaten for it.
Yeah.
And that once the tears kind of came and I released, it was like that situation never came up again. And it was like
Yeah.
it's almost like the message, the anger, like you said, it's hiding the sadness, so it's hiding something in there which is waiting to be released. And when we give space for that, we
Yeah.
can let it go and transform.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of courage
It does. Yeah.
to be with that. But like you said, if we don't, it just keeps repeating. And it's almost like we create those situations
Yeah.
by, getting angry at people until we resolve it. So yeah.
And it ripples out from you. So once you start taking control of your own emotions and making friends with them and undemonizing, I call it, undemonizing your emotions, every emotion is valid. Every emotion has a reason to it. And once you begin to give them that value and honor them and see them as an intrinsic part of you as a human, holistic mind, body, spirit complex, and learn to work with them, that is like the most power you can ever give yourself. Because then everything that comes up, it's like people, the reason I called the happiness gap is because I see people, they just want to feel happy. They just want to feel the good stuff. And everything else is like wiped out. And so people get this tiny little piece of life where you're on holiday or you're getting married or you get the car or whatever. I'm happy then, but you don't value the whole rest of your everyday life when you're feeling all the other emotions. If you see value in all of your emotions, it doesn't matter what you're feeling. I can feel absolute depression or misery, but still feel happy. that I'm feeling those things, feel comfortable with them, and know how to work with them and know how to process them through and let them move on like a little weather system. That's power. And once you know how to do it, you can teach the people around you how to do it. And then once they know how to do it, they can teach it on. It's like lighting candles with people. It just goes on, the ripple effect goes out.
Thank you. Reminds me of Marcy Shimoff in her book, Happy for No Reason. She says that, there's four states of happiness, well, unhappiness, happiness, happy for bad reason, happy for good reason, and happy for no reason. And she says this idea that, yeah, if we can just be happy for no reason, meaning it doesn't matter what's turning up. And it reminds me of Bessel van der Kolk's work and the window of tolerance. Often I find trauma survivors, their window of tolerance of their emotions is very limited, but they
Yeah,
can't feel happiness, but they can't feel the sadness. But
yeah.
once they open it up,
Mm.
feel some sadness, they start to feel more joy. And it's almost like the heart is opening, and
Yeah,
suddenly it's like this huge river,
yeah.
and we're able to feel life and feel alive again.
Yeah, and you can start to feel happiness over the smallest, like in a day that's not great, you can find something to feel genuine happiness about. And for me, it might be a sunset. I'm very connected to nature. It might be a sunset, or it might be that, like the other day, my car broke down. I had the AA man there. I was really like stuck in Surrey, 2 hours to drive to Wiltshire. Grr, couldn't see my dad. And I'm in this midst of all this chaos going on. And the part was going to cost £1,000 to get fixed. It's all like, ah. But I stood up, I like breathed, and I felt the wind blow in my hair. And as I looked up, there was a heron circling above me. And that just took all that rubbish around me, that just took it all away. I was like, what an amazing moment. Thank you, universe, for sending me the heron. That's power, isn't it? One thing I would say with happiness is what I say to people and what remind myself is I believe we're always happy. So if you think of happiness as a scale of 1 to 10, so it starts from 1, you're always on the scale of happiness, but you might be a 1 today. And if you wake up and you're a 1, like you can barely even find it in you, but if you give it some intention and if you do a little bit of work, you will find it. And then start to think, okay, I'm a 1. What would move me to a 2? And become intentional. Can I find something to move? Who can I think about? What can I do? What will give me a little bit of joy and jump me to 2? And when you get to 2, can I get to a 3? And again, that is brain training. You're training your brain, your computer, how to intentionally move you into a better feeling space, more comfortable feeling space. I think it feels nice to think I'm always happy, but I might just be a 1, then I'm not happy. It's like when I'm not happy, it's like a door's shut and I don't have access to it and I can't get to it.
That's beautiful. I love that. I think sometimes there's that saying of a cup half full, or a cup half empty. And I think, yeah, it's that. I love that, thinking, oh, what am I? One, two, three, four. Hmm. So, as we start to wrap up today's conversation, Sarah, is there any last message or something you would love to share with people that maybe you've not shared, which you feel is important around emotion, especially for people who've maybe had to shut their emotions down?
It's not set and you're not broken. You're not broken. It's very easy to think I am broken, I'm defective, or someone has broken me now and it's unfixable. That is not true. I thought it was true about me. I thought I was beyond help. And then I had this huge journey and I'm still on it. I'm still learning beautiful things, beautiful information, lovely techniques, and more I feel is coming to the planet at the moment. I feel we're in this period of great change where we're relearning all this wonderful stuff. I feel our hearts are opening a lot more. Um, and so we're all learning this stuff, but knowing that you are always happy, you might just be a 1, that emotions are meant to be there, but some really bad things have happened that have made your subconscious mind think they're not safe. They can become safe if you start learning how to work with them, just learning a different way. You can turn things around in a moment. It's learning where you are and thinking, well, I don't like being here. I would prefer if I could be there. Make the decision to find a way. And I bet you, no matter what's gone on, no matter how traumatized you are, no matter how uncomfortable you're feeling in yourself and what's happened, or how numb you are, or how switched off, how disconnected you are, if you make that decision, I'm gonna look into, can I change this?
Mm,
Good things will happen from that. And do you want to
beautiful.
know a quick happiness hack that you can actually use?
Nice. Yeah, go for it, Sarah.
Is fake smiling.
Mm,
So, when you have a really rubbish day and then you have to go to work or be around people and you don't want to show how grr you are, so you pretend and you fake smile. How are you? Yeah, I'm fine today. Yeah, it's great. And you kind of have to do it because you have to get through the day. And by the end of the day, you feel better than you did at the start of the day. That is actually a physiological process that happens. So when you do a smile, your brain doesn't know if it's real or fake. All it registers is that your mouth muscles have gone upwards, and it knows you do that when you're happy. And so it gives you a hit of happiness chemicals, of, dopamine and serotonin, those sorts of things, just from your muscles going up. So I wake up in the morning and I lie in bed and go, no matter how I feel, I just start grinning. And if you can do it for 2 minutes, that's great. If you can only manage, a minute or so, but you can reverse engineer and hack your happiness chemicals with a fake smile. Fake it till you make it.
thank you. I've heard that there's been an experiment, I think it was Stanford or something like that. If you have a pen, you put it in your lips or in your teeth.
Okay.
And when you do that, you
Yeah.
give kind of a smile, and they've
Yeah.
shown that the chemicals
Yeah.
increased. If you're watching something, you get a lot more joy. So,
Okay. That's
mm,
probably you're probably using the same muscles, I would imagine, that kind of hits that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, how do people find out more about you, Sarah?
So you can find me over at thehappinessgap.co.uk. And I'm on YouTube as well. It's all the Happiness Gap. I'm on Instagram. I'm putting lots out on YouTube at the moment. I want to build a body of videos that will support people. So um, I've only started recently sort of putting stuff on, but I'm consistently putting more and more on there. So yeah, come say hi. I love talking about this stuff. I said to you at the beginning, I could evangelize about this all day.
Well, that's often the best thing for us to be doing when we're in that space. We just love it. Similar with me and my work. It's just, I feel so passionate, and it's great that you're doing the work. So thank you, and it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your time and yeah, all your wisdom today.
Thank you for having me on. It's been wonderful chatting with you, Piers. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.